Okay, so we are live. I'm just waiting for Victoria's. Okay.
Did you tweet it? Sorry, so we can retweet.
Yeah, it should be everything.
Okay.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. I am Federico, head of BD at Phemex, and welcome to the 4th episode of our live stream, Phemex Crypto Talk. Today we have a lot of interesting guests. We will discuss, of course, the price of Bitcoin, as well as a few other interesting topics such as DeFi, NFTs, these kind of things. We have guests from YouTube, Twitter that will join us and sort of give their opinion on what's happening right now in crypto. We are also keeping an eye on the price of Bitcoin, which is edging towards 15K. We encourage you guys to join the discussion. You can leave your questions here on YouTube and we will answer some of them and offer trading bonuses if your questions get picked. So starting from our guest, I think we can go clockwise. So we can start from CryptoJack, if you want to introduce yourself shortly.
Hey guys, my name's Jack, CryptoJack. I've been doing, I'm muted. I'm not muted.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I'm not muted on my end.
Yes, sir. Got it.
Okay, hi guys again. My name is Jack. I run a YouTube channel called CryptoJack. I've been talking about Bitcoin and trading Bitcoin and altcoins as well for pretty much the last 3 years now. I've been in crypto since the end of 2016, start of 2017. So I'm not an original Bitcoiner. However, still been a few years now and hope to be here for many years in the future as well.
All right. Thank you, CryptoJack. So we go now to Carl, aka The Moon.
Yeah, so I have the YouTube channel The Moon, and I am making videos about Bitcoin. I make one video every day about Bitcoin. I make some technical analysis, some fundamental analysis. I go through the news, and essentially I talk about anything that could be interesting to a Bitcoin holder or trader to know about. So it's like a big news roundup every day. And I'm very active on Twitter. So I tweet many tweets every day, trying to get people updated about the price and different things that is happening around the space, basically my thoughts. And just loving this space. I'm a holder and a trader. I've been holding and trading Bitcoin for more than 3 years now. I intend to stay in this space until way above $5 million per Bitcoin. So I will be here for a while.
Thank you, Carl. Let's go now to Jack Tao, our CEO at Phemex.
Hey, that's the first time we'll have two Jacks in the live stream. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Phemex. Phemex is one of the top derivatives in the spot exchange. So we are building the best products to our customers. And I'm happy to be here. That's the 4th episode. And I think I'll be here for a while.
Thank you, Jack. Let's move now to Scott Melker, aka the Wolf of Wall Street, who's going to be also the host for today's live stream.
What's up, everybody? As you said, my name is Scott Melker. Most people knew me for about 20 years as a DJ and music producer, and then I sort of slowly pivoted into the crypto space after trading equities and Forex for a couple decades. I write a newsletter called the Wolf Den Newsletter. Also, I'm the host of a podcast, the Wolf of All Streets podcast, which I've had Jack on before. So we're not the first time we've been across the camera from one another. So I hope, like Carl said, that I'm here when Bitcoin goes to 5 million as well. The way it's going, that could be next week and we could all be retiring. So it's looking good, right?
Absolutely. Just a reminder, there's still the competition going on at Phemex. With this volatility, it's been really fun so far. In a few days, we will announce the winners. And also we are approaching the first birthday of Phemex since we launched. So we're going to work on some special campaigns and giveaways for you guys to thank you for supporting us for almost a year. And of course, thank you also for all our guests here for being part of our team for such a long time, being very good partners. So I think we can move now to the topics, and I leave the floor to you, Scott.
Thank you. And thank you once again, Phemex, for doing this. I think it's really great for the community, amazing information, education, and incredible guests consistently. So, and on a personal note, it's just been incredible trading on your exchange and working with you guys. So thank you for putting this together. I think it's really a service to everyone. Now we're going to get on to the topics, and I have a feeling that we will have far more consensus discussing this than, say, the Americans have on finding a president at the moment. The first question is, can Bitcoin reach new all-time highs? Can we break 20,000? And perhaps your thoughts on when that might happen. I'm going to go to you first, Carl, because you threw out 5 million. So we kind of know your answer, but I'd love some context and perhaps an idea of when you think that's a possibility.
So yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me a few weeks ago, I would have said maybe Q1 next year. But the way the Bitcoin price is going now, it looks like it could happen in the next few weeks. So it's just in this parabolic run-ups, it's just impossible to use technical analysis to kind of predict when we're going to break the all-time high. But if you back out a little bit and take a look at the halving, take a look at maybe the stock to flow ratio model, and you take a look at kind of the circumstances we have, then everything seems to be pointing towards the fact that it's going to happen sooner rather than later. And I'm confident it's going to happen in the beginning of next year, for sure, before the beginning of next year. But like I said, it looks like we might be going there faster than this. So, but I don't really have any nice pattern. There's no like triangle telling me we're going to go to 20K. So, but the fact that we broke 10.5K, that was the first big step. That was like the big first like macro level. That was a nice milestone. And now that we also broke the 13.8K level, which was the next big milestone, now there's nothing left until 20K for us to keep an eye on. I mean, if you look at it, where we're trading now, we have only been trading in these levels for 6 weeks in total. If you go back to 2017, 18, you can see that being above 13.8, we've only been here for a few weeks. So there is not a lot of volume traded. And if I'm not mistaken, last time we broke 13.8K, like back in 2017, it took not even a week until we went all the way up to 20,000. So what I'm saying is things can go extremely volatile in these levels because there's not a lot of resistance. So well, I'm just very, very excited to see the volatility every day. And it looks like the volatility from now on is predominantly going to be to the upside. But yeah, before the end of the year or not, I don't know actually, but I think it's very, very possible.
Yeah, I agree. The time frame is somewhat irrelevant. If you believe that it's going to happen, it doesn't matter if it happens November, December, or January. And I have the same levels. You know, 10,005 was sort of the key macro high, and then 13.8 was the highest monthly close that we've ever had. So literally just a wick and no resistance in there. What do you think, CryptoJack?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's looking incredibly bullish right now. You'd have to be pretty silly to argue with what's going on with the charts right now. I think this weekly close coming up at the end of the week will be very interesting if we can actually get the close above 15,000. I know we're not there yet, but I think that will be very interesting if we can actually get that. As Carl said, and as you said, there's not really too much going on above kind of the levels we are at right now. I mean, we do have a little bit of tiny resistance at about 15,100 and then about 17,200, I believe. But apart from that, there's not really anything going on above the current price levels that we're at. So if we can maintain the volume and keep pushing higher, I don't disbelieve the Bitcoin could get to 20,000 in the next few months, maybe maximum 6 months time if we continue the way we are going. I think it's extremely bullish.
Yeah, I think we all agree. I mean, listen, we're up 40-50% in a few weeks. So to think that we could just do that again is not such a stretch. So, Jack, I'm gonna assume that you also agree that we can get there. So I'm gonna ask you something more specific because I want to put it in context. So obviously we know what price has been doing. We see it going crazy. We all think it can go higher. I guess the real question is why, right? We have obviously a lot of macro things, QE, money printing, PayPal coming in, all this huge news in American election. And then on the downside, we have BitMEX, OKX's issues, KuCoin's issues. So what do you think? Put this in context for us, this move that's happening and what's likely to happen. You obviously run an exchange, so you're probably the best equipped to do that for us.
Right. So that's also I'm thinking. So you can see that the PayPal announcement is not just today. It has been a while, right? And the it's like market is trying to find can you guys hear me clearly? I have some glitch on the internet. Okay.
Yeah, for one moment.
The market is probably finding the direction for a while. Like we're being in the 13,000 for a while, around 13,000. And there's not much downside. Even for will be okay, those incidents that the users do believe that the government will protect, even they close the exchange. In the worst case, they're going to protect the assets. Even the government announced that they do respect all the assets people holding with crypto, but they have some concern for money laundering and their foreign exchange rate control, etc. Right? They have some concern and they're doing the investigation. So people worry about, but not to that degree gonna impact the Bitcoin price. So overall, that there's no really downside news or emotion to sell it down. I agree that the price movement is look very bullish, and just the investors has to know that the market goes up and down. They will do an adjustment. Whenever there's a surge, there was some certain level of adjustment. And if you want to follow the trends and do believe that 20,000 might be the goal for this year, you still need to look into those, look at the trends. Don't be formal, right? And sometimes maybe now buying is not a really good. If you buy in like 2 days ago, maybe that's good. But if you chase volume to buy, maybe not the right time.
I think that makes sense. Obviously, to exercise caution. And it's funny because you're obviously the CEO of an exchange, so that's a differentiation I think that's very specific to traders, right? If you're trading with leverage, you want to be very careful about your entry. I would, like to say, as an investor, if you're just slowly dollar cost averaging and you have a 10-year time horizon, I wouldn't be personally scared to buy this price, or 12,000 if it drops there, or 10,000 if it drops there, or 20,000 if it goes there, right? So I think it's a matter of context. CryptoJack, Carl, do you guys have any thoughts on the macro environment as far as the news that I mentioned, or anything else that's going on that might be leading to this price rise? Or do you think that it's a technical move and it was just kind of time and it would have happened in a vacuum regardless?
So I think that when we look at the very, very big macro, seeing all the money printing going on, we're seeing the big global pandemic, the fear and the uncertainty out there. I think that people are looking for, not only people, we're talking about institutions, we talk about countries and companies. Like, we will see everyone look for a place to store wealth and store value. And right now, cash, except from gold and Bitcoin, cash seems to be the safest place because everything else is so volatile. Of course, stocks they're all going up. So that's why people go to stocks, people go to real estate, also goes up. But cash, which has been the safest place for people, is getting so inflated that people are getting pushed out of cash into these volatile assets. And essentially, I think that people eventually will have to look for something where you cannot inflate it. And we all know that Bitcoin is the best place to put your wealth if you want to have no third-party risk at all. Obviously, with gold, you also have no third-party risk, but if you have a lot of gold, then you have to store it somewhere, and there is some third-party risk and all of that. I'm not going to compare gold and Bitcoin here, but I think that we're seeing this trend increasing right now, and it's escalating. Every single dollar that gets printed, I think we're escalating it, and maybe that's why we're seeing this push now. We're seeing this happen that we've all been waiting for, the big event where Bitcoin just soaks up a lot of value from cash, and eventually I think Bitcoin is going to even soak up a lot of value from stocks and real estate and other places where people have been using them as store of value. But eventually I think that we're going to see a big financial disaster where these assets that are in a huge bubble will deflate, and that's when people will be looking for the safe haven, and gold and Bitcoin will be the two places I think people will go. And it seems like the smart money are front running this by buying Bitcoin right now before everyone else is running in. So of course, most of the people are going to buy Bitcoin at $1 million and $5 million. That's where the majority are going to pop in. But all of us, we were fortunate enough to find Bitcoin before these levels, and that's why we're buying, because we understand the value of Bitcoin. And if it was so easy for us to understand the value of Bitcoin, then it's only a matter of time before everyone else understands it as well. So I think this is what we're seeing happening right now, just more and more people understanding Bitcoin and jumping on the ship.
It's an interesting perspective. And you mentioned smart money basically front running the market, and we've seen Paul Tudor Jones talking about Bitcoin in the 6,000s, and more recently the Giga Chad of all Giga Chads, Michael Saylor, who actually is on my podcast today, which is out right now. One of the most interesting conversations I've definitely ever had in my entire life. Investing over $400 million of MicroStrategy's money into Bitcoin to protect their cash reserves, and also over 200 million of his own money, because he divulged that later and said, hey, I can't ask a public company and my lawyers and all of these people to buy $400 million, which by the way is probably almost 600 now, or 550 in Bitcoin, if I'm not going to do it myself. So CryptoJack, like, what do you think about companies? Like, we've talked about institutional money and adoption, but now we have the first legitimate, it's not just theory anymore. We're seeing it, right? So what do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's only a matter of time until we see more and more companies following suit and doing things like this. When different companies start to see one or two getting into the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency game, I think more are going to follow without a doubt. I think it's just going to kind of take a snowball effect. And it's a great way to put a lot of the company's money in this kind of asset. It isn't the US dollar. It isn't going to deflate over time. And it's a great way to not only secure your capital, but also secure the potential success of your future business. If you have that capital reserve that is not being deflated as the money is being printed, I think it's a great strategy. And if companies aren't already doing it now behind closed doors, whether they're doing it publicly or not, I think they'll soon start to do it, whether we see it in the news or not.
He touched on that. He said, listen, there's a lot of people who are in it. He's like, I'm the only one who effectively has the balls to talk about it, right? He's like, but we need 10 billionaires to come out there and not be afraid of being hacked and not be scared and say, listen,
Elon
this is
Musk
what I'm
tweet
doing
about it a few more times.
Yeah. So along those lines, though, and Jack, Tao, I'm gonna ask you this, but we see a company putting in $400 million, but we always talk about what would happen if Apple put in 1% of their cash reserves, or one of these bigger companies. And it's an interesting notion. But I think that a lot of people maybe don't realize that would be effectively impossible with the market cap and the size of the market. So it's somewhat of a pipe dream, but actually it's very bullish, because the price would have to be so much higher for them to even gain exposure, right? We have to be talking about trillions of dollar market cap, which would coincide with $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 Bitcoin for those companies to be able to, even if they wanted to. Is that notion correct? And do you think that that's why they're not here yet?
I think they probably have some concern about the reputation and how to evolve this, right? If like a big company like Apple to invest in Bitcoin publicly, and the impact is huge, right? And I don't think that is coming soon. But I think let's imagine if that happens, like all the big banks and the investor, that will be a total different story. I'm not sure if Bitcoin is ready for this, because it's only have a 21 million supplies. And if big company involve this investment some way, they try to control the price. They will make it more stable, and the price probably not in this level, and it will be a game change, and it will be totally different. And to some extent, this is good, but to some extent, maybe it's not. It's damaging, because if big companies involved that try to control the price, and that they are not decentralized as people wished. So that's two folds of the sword. So two folds of the coin, and so I don't know. I will see that in 5 years that definitely will happen. Maybe Facebook already secretly invested. I don't know, but that could happen. And also the first the hedge funds and the private equity were coming first. That's definitely, they were allocated 5%. It's already started like in 2018 as information I get. There's a lot of PE companies, they allocated like 1 to 5% their total equity to Bitcoin, just to see what happened, right? They probably make a lot of money by now, right? And there's more and more institutional clients coming. And but Bitcoin has its own problem. Whether it can take such volume, investment volume, is a big question. And that's something that we can discuss the whole night, you know. And but overall, that's a good trend, I believe.
So it's a bit of hopium, and there's actually two sides to it. As much as we feel like we want it because the price would go up, it would actually oppose the core values that we have surrounding it, in that like short the banks, long Bitcoin sort of idea that we want it to be decentralized and not controlled. So I want to move on. Obviously, I touched on it very quickly in the intro. It seems like the United States has lost the ability to effectively count. So we have an election, an indecision, and contention. So I'm very happy to see Bitcoin rising in the face of that. Personally, I think it's a major statement. And even on Monday, I said it would be awesome if we saw Bitcoin moon through this election. So I'm wondering if any of you have any thoughts on what's happening with the election. So I guess immediately what you believe the effect would be, but then also, you know, for the next 4 years, if you believe that there'll be anything tradable, discernible, any information you can glean from who wins the presidency and what it might look like for Bitcoin.
I can.
You can all feel free to jump in. Go ahead, CryptoJack.
I mean, I think regardless of who wins and regardless of what political side you're on, any of the presidents are going to continue, and they're going to continue printing a lot of more money, which of course is extremely good for Bitcoin for the long term. And I think that's just going to continue over the years. And no matter who wins, I think it's just going to be very bullish for Bitcoin, to be honest.
Anyone else have thoughts?
So when it comes to the US election, I couldn't really care less who wins. I know that the same old agendas will always be there anyways. And I think it's just like, I know that, I don't know, I think the whole political space and look at the banking system, and like it's all quite corrupt anyways. And it's not like a different face is gonna make the world a better place. I don't know. For me, politics, I'm just staying way out of it. And when it comes to Bitcoin, just like Jack says here, I mean, it's not going to make a difference for the banking system, for example, who's on the throne, so to speak. I think that the banking system will still continue to be corrupt. It will continue to be a Ponzi scheme. It will continue to control the money supply, and the central banks will continue to control the banks. And this will never change until something else comes along that can completely break down the system. And let's hope Bitcoin is that hammer to smash this. But like I said, I don't think the election is going to have a big impact on Bitcoin for the longer or medium term. In the short term, sure. We have seen several instances where events that are completely irrelevant for Bitcoin can still affect the price short term because of fear, because of emotions, because of irrational buying and selling, essentially. So who knows if one of the others wins here, maybe there's going to be a sell-off or pump, but I have no clue. Like it's not like I'm trading the US election, if anyone wonders that. So but yeah, I'm just bullish on Bitcoin, and I think that just like Jack says, no matter who wins, we will see this trend continue of money printing, and this is very bullish for Bitcoin. So I think that no matter who wins, Bitcoin will be the winner.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've reached, you said it's not like you're trading the election, but I think we've reached full degenerate status when you can, because that is actually a thing. And seeing people do technical analysis on Trump-Biden charts is probably the most absurd thing that I've seen evolve from this entire process. I think it's fair to say that neither party at this point can claim fiscal responsibility. You touched on the most important point, which is that the central banks are going to act independently. They're going to continue to print, and that's a train that's out of control. So I agree. You might see, momentary flops, but the use case and the core value and the whole maximalist theory right now, we're seeing it come to play, right? So I want to move on to another completely other topic. Two of the biggest trends that we've seen in the space, DeFi. I would say that right now food coins are being eaten by Bitcoin, and NFTs. So I don't know if any of you have any passionate feelings on them, what their place is, what their ideal use case is, how important they are to the space, what their effect is on Bitcoin. But I'd like to just kind of generally throw DeFi and NFTs out there and let you guys take the floor.
So personally, I was never really that involved in DeFi. I was never really researching it too much. I was following the trend, and I did buy a couple of coins just because of the hype. And some of them went up in value. Some of them are way down below my entry price. And I expected that. I knew that I'm buying a hype. I know that I'm into a bubble. That's why I only used a very, very small fraction of my portfolio. It was essentially like a gamble, or you could maybe call it a swing trade, but I would call it a gamble. Actually, it was. But we have seen before that jumping into these bubbles can be profitable if you can get out of the bubble when it pops. And now we're seeing the bubble completely pop. And I was talking about it a lot on my channel and on Twitter that I think that DeFi is a bubble, or it was a bubble. And even if there is long-term use case there, which it is probably, I mean, we will see DeFi be used in the future, but this always happens. People overestimate the speed of development, and people overestimate the importance of these projects in the short term. So just because a new DeFi project comes up and says that they're going to decentralize something doesn't mean that their token is going to pump, or it doesn't mean that their token should pump to like $300 million, because all of these things would take many, many years to develop and get adoption. And a project with zero adoption and I mean, it's just like back in the ICO hype. And I always told people that I think it's the exact same thing. The ICO hype and the DeFi hype is literally the exact same thing. People are just overestimating the importance of this in the short term. And even if there is long-term use case, I think that we have to realize that this was a lot of speculation with very, very little actual fundamental investing.
I'm at CryptoJack. I'm going to ask you too in a second, but I just want to tell you guys, I'm actually just watching the Phemex chart and it just hit 14,997, I believe. So
Nice.
$2 or $3 short of 15K from what I can see. But let's go back to DeFi and NFT. CryptoJack, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I'm just like Carl said, I'm not really too into DeFi, or I didn't really research too much about it, but I was following some of the prices. Some of the tokens are doing crazy returns of many people. And all I can say is I really hope that they kind of cash that money back out into Bitcoin or USDT, because I think it's not really here. Some things may be here for the long term, but a lot of them is just hype. It's just people buying into it when you're getting free tokens, thousands of dollars worth of free tokens. I just don't think it's sustainable. And for me personally, it distracts from my goal, which is just to stack as many sats and to get as much Bitcoin as possible. If you can use these things as a medium to do that, then great. But you just have to keep in the back of your mind, what's your goal, what's your exit plan, and you just have to be a little bit smart about it rather than getting carried away in the hype, like a lot of people do, and then they end up holding their bags, unfortunately. But hey, I'm sure some of the people will learn from their mistakes, maybe in the next cycle or the next bubble, whatever that may be. Hopefully they'll be better educated and smarter along those lines.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because there's like what became the DeFi hype, which was the food coins and Uniswap and all of that. And then there's the BlockFis and Voyagers and Celsiuses of the world where you can literally just park your money and make 5 or 6% and stack sats, like you said. So I think, so I think that there's a big differentiation there, and that DeFi itself, the ability to have decentralized finance and to gain yield, not 300% a week, but 10% a year, is incredible. Really, I mean, it amounts to a crypto bank. But so Jack, as the CEO of an exchange, obviously there's probably pressure or situations where people wanted you to add all these DeFi tokens and get involved in the hype. And we saw in this cycle that a coin could be conceived one week and literally be trading on Binance or another major exchange a week or two later, which to me was just kind of blew my mind. So how do you navigate that? What are your thoughts on DeFi in general, but how do you navigate that, deciding what to list and when to list those things, considering we all know that it was very hyped?
Yeah, I personally I do like a DeFi. It has a limitation. It's not scalable, and their financial model needs to be improved, right? As they issue many governance token, and the value of those tokens are questionable, right? So we do have a lot of pressure, as you can see. But we're not going crazy, and so we add a lot of perpetual trading. It's mainly is easier for people to sell and to maintain, not just buying. If it's only spot, it's only one direction. But if it's a perpetual, it's different. You can easily buy and sell in both directions. So, and we only listed those the coins we think the platform has value, right? So, but we're not going crazy because we think that's the hype will be over very soon. That's actually true. And I'm thinking about DeFi is probably another reason that we have this all-time high, almost for this 2 or 3 years, that all-time high Bitcoin price. We see that money moving around altcoins, ICO projects to other points, then all flow back to Bitcoin. We see that in 2017, that when Ethereum was totally overperformed than Bitcoin, and later on Bitcoin surged as well, and the totally changed. And then when ICO hype is over and IEO hype is over, all the money flew back to Bitcoin, and then we get more population, right? Because those projects, even those are high, but they make blockchain and the cryptos more popular. And it's keeping the more and more people start liking Bitcoin and like the idea, and they enter this market. And that's why we get this, it's one of the reasons that why we get this high in Bitcoin, and all the other coins are underperformed right now.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I want to remind everybody to please continue asking questions. I see them flowing in there in the chat, which is awesome. And we will get to those questions in about 10 minutes. So I just want to make sure you know that, and that you get those questions in. And we're going to pivot slightly. I know we didn't really get to NFTs, but I think everyone gets the gist of where we stand on DeFi in that space, and that all of us are pretty focused on Bitcoin at the moment. I think it would be fair to say. So I want to talk more another macro sort of topic that I think is going to be extremely important and pivotal in the future of this space and for Bitcoin, and that's central bank digital currencies. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of actual movement in an attempt at the beginnings of adoption with the yuan, the digital yuan in China, with airdrops of millions of dollars into people's wallets to test it in certain provinces. And we know that, the Fed has been forced to speak about it. The United States is considering it. The Bahamas have already adopted a digital currency. We have actual use cases, and we're seeing it happen. So I would love to hear all of your thoughts on what this means for Bitcoin and what it means for the future of money in general. Carl, do you want to start?
Yeah. So I think that we will see central banks across the globe try to make these central banks digital currencies a thing, because we're already seeing the trend. And I think that it's a great way for them to compete with Bitcoin. But in the end, I do think that these currencies will just make it easier for people to go into Bitcoin. It will be like a gateway drug into Bitcoin. Or at least that's what I hope, right? Because I think that all these apps that will be developed to hold these central bank currencies will, of course, very easily be developed also to hold Bitcoin in the same app, because it's kind of the same thing, right? When it comes down to it. So to switch from these central bank currencies to Bitcoin will be increasingly easier. So much easier than it is today from fiat, or today's fiat. It will still be fiat, but today's how we differentiate. But I think the barrier will be lower. So it will be good for Bitcoin, but it will also be bad for the wide majority that get tricked into this central bank currencies, because of course this gives even more control to the central banks over people's spending and over people's money. They will phase out cash more and more. We're already seeing it in Sweden, for example, where I'm from. There is literally no cash anywhere. Like when you go to restaurants, very often you see signs, no cash accepted, very, very often. And when you have a cash, like a bill, people think that you're a criminal, that you want to sell drugs or something. It's very, very crazy, but I think that Sweden is an example of how the world will become no cash. So it will be increasingly harder for people to be anonymous and to have private transactions. So I think that, yeah, we're going more and more into this trend of the central banks and the banking system having more control over people. So that's why it's very important that Bitcoin can step in and gain adoption faster than these central bank currencies, which I think will happen, especially when we see the inflation take place, which we are seeing, because these central banks currencies, they will still get inflated. It's still fiat. I mean, some people might think it's a cryptocurrency, but it's still fiat money, just a central bank's digital currency, but it's still fiat. So people will be fooled in the short term, but in the long term, there's no way they're going to be able to make the whole world adopt these currencies, because they will go down to zero very, very soon. I think maybe it's a decade or two decades from now. Maybe it's only 2 years, but eventually all of these digital currencies from central banks will be worthless.
That's funny that they think you're a drug dealer in Sweden if you have cash, because here they think you're a drug dealer if you trade Bitcoin. Although I think that we all know that
the world
nothing
is
has been
so
used.
Diversified.
Yeah, nothing has been used to buy and sell drugs or launder money more than the good old US dollar, right? So it's a funny misconception. CryptoJack, what are your feelings on central bank digital currencies?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people probably don't even realize that most of the dollars in circulation and other currencies are actually already digital as they are. I think a lot of people don't even know that. They just think that if they went to their bank account, or if everyone went to their bank account and wanted to withdraw their balance, that they'll be able to do that. But that is just simply not how the banking system works. And I don't think a lot of people understand that in the real world. And I think a lot of people would be a little bit cautious, or they might be a little bit uneasy if the government's wanting to take cash out of the society, like Carl was saying, because cash is, yes, it's not a great thing to hold. However, it gives you a lot of security and kind of privacy if you want to spend something in cash, and that will be taking it away from the people. And a lot of people would not like that if the governments are in fact having even more prying eyes onto what they're doing, as if they're not already doing enough with the banking systems right now. So I think this is only going to increase Bitcoin's scalability, and not that you use it for buying a coffee and things. I don't think that's what Bitcoin's for personally. But I think a lot of people are going to be moving more into Bitcoin because they already have a digital dollar, which is, or they would have, which is controlled and which everyone can see what they're doing. Why not just have something like Bitcoin, which is a completely different entity, and no one can really control it like that. So I think it's definitely good for Bitcoin. Most things when it comes to central banks, whatever they're doing, they're not doing the right things in the eyes of Bitcoin holders. So most things that they do is probably good for Bitcoin. That's my opinion on it anyway.
I generally agree. Jack, what do you think?
I think it's not a totally bad thing. And, at least that the government is trying to use the blockchain technology, right? It's already a big promotion to the world to say, hey, there's a technology called blockchain and it's very successful and we want to try this. So the government is not a total reject blockchain, the cryptos. Almost all the major countries admit that the cryptos are kind of a money or properties, and it has values. Almost all the countries admit it. And they try to seek the way that if they can develop the blockchain technology to be kind of to meet the requirement in the future on the technical those challenges. And we probably will see that countries will issue those standards and protocols to talk to. So for the traditional banking system, talk to their central bank digital currency system. And we will see that maybe some of the blockchain protocols will be issued by the government and can be used in Bitcoin and other major mainnet as well. So the government shows they are willing to approve this technology. I think this is a good thing. The challenge is that blockchain and the cryptos bring a lot of challenges for the requirement for government to meet the requirement of money launderers, right? And the blockchain has the ability to provide some privacy features, and it's traceable and it's easy to settle, easy to track the records. It's immutable, and that's why they like this technology. If China want to promote Chinese yuan, and the blockchain probably can save a lot of money for other countries to adopt the Chinese yuan if the platform is friendly enough, right? Instead of manually settling or every month and use the old legacy bank system, which costs a lot of money and for other people to adopt. So that's another thought, but probably that what China is going to do is try to promote the Chinese yuan in certain regions. And the third thing is that eventually, in the end, that I agree that it's fundamentally totally different from cryptos, and people will still. I hope that people still have choices that to choose, that they can trade, they can use the cryptos easily globally. That's the ultimate goal. If I don't see that the fiat currency can achieve this goal, because they all controlled and deflated every year, and it's kind of a competition, right? If European print money, definitely US will print more money to overpower them, right? This is a kind of a competition. No one gonna stop this, and I don't see they're gonna have reached a point to see, hey, let's all stop printing more money. I don't think that's gonna happen. And giving that thought that blockchain, Bitcoin probably will reach getting higher and higher and get more popular, and we probably will see like millions for one Bitcoin.
So it sounds like everybody sort of agrees that, once again, there's two sides to it, right? So for adoption, it's great. Everybody in the world will be familiar with a digital wallet. They'll know how to transact digitally, enter an address and send money. And that inevitably is good for Bitcoin, right? Because one of the biggest barriers is that people just don't want to figure out how to do it, right? But on the flip side, your privacy is gone. Every transaction will be completely tracked. They want your taxes, they take them out of your wallet, right? And it's sort of a wet dream for central banks to some degree to have a digital currency, because it's more perfect and impeccable control of the money supply. So I think that we all are somewhat in consensus there. We have one last thing just about the global. We saw Iran basically taking Bitcoin and using it as a store of value, much like the companies that we talked about before. Does anybody have quick feelings on the behavior of these nation states and countries and how they will use Bitcoin, as a store of value?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people in Iran specifically, I've even had people on my YouTube videos, I spoke about it literally just a couple of days ago, about the Iranian rial losing around 57% of its value in 2020 alone. And a few guys from Iran are actually watching my video, were saying they were trying to put as much money as they could into Bitcoin just to stop this from actually happening and to just preserve some of their wealth. So I think definitely Bitcoin is a great thing over there. And I think that it's going to continue to grow as a means of people storing their wealth and not losing their wealth due to government, basically inflation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyone else have thoughts? Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
I just think that right now we're seeing retail and smart money buying Bitcoin because to hedge against inflation. But the very, very interesting thing will happen when we see countries start to hedge against inflation with Bitcoin, because then we're not talking about millions or billions, but we're talking about trillions of dollars starting to flow into Bitcoin. And that's basically the end game. That's when Bitcoin just completely takes over. Some people think it's going to happen. Some people think it's not going to happen. I think it's very possible. I think it's very, very possible that Bitcoin in the future could become the world reserve currency, because to me, it makes sense that the best form of money in the world eventually becomes the world reserve currency. And Bitcoin today, in my opinion, is the best form of money in the world. There's only one detail that needs to be fixed, and that is faster transactions to a lower cost. And of course, we can just wait for someone to make a nice second layer solution. We will see that being developed. Of course, we don't have the perfect solution yet, but within the next 10, 20 years, I'm very confident that we will have a solution that will be very easy to use. And as soon as Bitcoin has near instant transactions and near zero fees, then I see no reason why Bitcoin should not be the biggest currency in the world. And well, so I mean, look at all the countries in the world. If you take all the money in the world, all the fiat, it's approximately like $100 trillion worth of value. And let's just say, like, the best case scenario, let's say Bitcoin takes over all of this, then that would put Bitcoin at a value of approximately $4 to $5 million per Bitcoin in today's value of the dollar. But obviously, at that point, the Bitcoin price would be like maybe $5 quadrillion. But you get the point, right? And I think this is the end game, basically seeing countries go into Bitcoin. And I think that we're already going to see it pretty soon, because we're also seeing many countries trying to avoid the dollar, because many countries don't like that the US is kind of weaponizing the dollar and using the dollar as a bully around the world. And we've already seen the trend in the past decade of many countries avoiding the dollar. And it's only a matter of time before these countries understand that the best way and the easiest way to avoid the dollar and still being liquid and sending value between each other, between countries, is Bitcoin. It's just so obvious, right? You have 10-minute transactions. You can send billions of dollars for literally like no fees at all when you compare to the banking system. So I think that there's no reason in my mind to be bearish on Bitcoin at this stage, because everything, literally everything around the world points towards the fact that Bitcoin is going to grow, because the exact environment we're seeing today is the exact environment that Bitcoin was designed for. So I don't think you could have created Bitcoin in a more perfect time than back in the previous financial crisis, letting it gain some adoption during the past decade. And now in this big global uncertainty and the money printing, seeing Bitcoin already being a widely adopted, or at least something that is widely traded out there. Many people at least heard about Bitcoin before. So the next step to mass adoption shouldn't be that big, especially with the trends we're seeing right now in the macroeconomics.
Thank you very much, guys. Very interesting discussion, a lot of interesting opinions. Of course, there is a lot of moving parts in the crypto space these days. Before we finish, we have some questions from our viewers. The questions that were picked will receive a $50 trading bonus. Reach out on Telegram or Twitter if you have been picked. So I think since we're a bit tight on time, we can answer one question for each of our guests, if that's okay. Scott, can you take a look at the questions?
Sure. The first question, interesting, guys. You mentioned about big companies allocating 1% of their money to Bitcoin. Do you think they will hold it for long term, or do you think they will sell it after reaching higher prices? Whoever would like to take it, have at it.
I can take it if no one else wants it.
Go for it.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good question, because obviously these companies want to keep their capital safe to continue doing business, but there becomes a point where this capital becomes so big that they can actually use it to expand their business. Of course, it's good having reserves and money on hand. However, if you can't use that and deploy it, whether it be to hire new staff or to increase marketing funds or whatever it may be, I do think that these companies will, in fact, want to go ahead and sell some of that Bitcoin, whether it be a small amount or a large amount, to actually fund their business and project their business further into the future. So yeah, I do think they'll hold it for a long term, but along the way, they will start to take profits.
Yeah, I think that that's a fair assessment. But I mean, just in speaking with Michael Saylor, I can say that he has no intention of selling it anytime soon. He views it absolutely 100% as a hedge against inflation, and the only way to protect his cash reserves from reducing in value. So I can say that that just in that one case, that I would believe that he would be selling very, very, very little as it goes up. So next question, are alts going to die? if Bitcoin goes to 20K?
Give that
Anyone?
to Carl.
That's
I'm
definitely
bashing altcoins. I can just take this one. Well, I think that I think in the Bitcoin dominance chart, you can see kind of the trends, and I usually use technicals to predict if if the dominance is gonna go up or down. And actually, I've been quite accurate. When you look at the dominance technicals, it's actually quite easy to see the trends. But if you simply look at the fundamentals, I think that Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency which is right now ready for mass adoption and ready for what it was intended to do, being a store of value. Bitcoin is ready right now. You don't have to wait for any developers to develop it further. You don't have to wait for the marketing team to get going. There's no one you have to wait for. It's right now ready. The only thing you have to wait for is for the rest of the world to realize the value of Bitcoin. When you look at the altcoins, however, there is so many uncertainties. I mean, I don't know, like you have to first of all just research an altcoin to understand what it is, which no one is doing. I mean, I don't know anyone who's actually going down and researching the altcoins they're buying. When you go and look at stocks, like very serious stock investors, at least they take weeks and like research the balance sheets and go through all of these things for buying one single stock. In altcoins, like people buy 10, 30 altcoins without even, like they just go to CoinMarketCap and just this one looks good. So right now, I don't think that altcoins are ready for mass adoption. There's just too many of them out there trying to do the same thing, and it doesn't seem like any of them are ready for mass adoption. None of them have adoption right now. I don't know, like maybe Ethereum is the only one that actually has some adoption now because people are using Ethereum to create these other tokens or so. But looking at the tokens and looking at these other projects, they are nowhere near adoption. I saw some statistic of like, you don't have any of these projects having even like 100 users or so, like that are actually using these projects as the intent was supposed to. So I don't know. For me, I'm bullish on Bitcoin. I'm not bullish on altcoins. Altcoins are something that I like to trade in the short term. So when I see the Bitcoin dominance going down, then I know that there's an altcoin season, and I know that there are short-term opportunities. But there's nothing else than just short-term opportunities in altcoins, in my opinion. I'm not going to buy altcoins expecting them to go 1,000x. I'm just going to buy Bitcoin and know it's going to go 100x.
I think that makes sense. Just to be clear, I think it's always interesting semantics when someone says, are they going to die? Because no, they're not going to die, right? Altcoins are not going to all go to zero and never resurrect. We've seen this trend a million times. If it continues up to 20K, they will probably continue to lose value for a while. But as Carl touched on, we will see alt seasons still, right? So we're not talking about investing. If you're talking about trading, I'm quite confident that you will still have your moments when it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun to trade altcoins with the intention of stacking sets, right? So the next question, I think, Jack Tao, this will be for you. Hi guys, what do you think is the difference between this Bitcoin rally and the 2017 rally as we approach 20K?
Oh, that's a good question. The market is always, I think it's they're quite similar. They're quite similar. So like 2017-18 was because of the Ethereum and ICO. This one is right after the DeFi hype, and we see that the more population there, and that's they're quite similar. They're quite similar. The main difference is that there's more development in the crypto world, right? DeFi, even this is a hype that I still believe that it's going to boom. And for Bitcoin, there's some tech issue, and as Carl mentioned, that layer 2 is highly likely to be a solution on there. So we will see that more and more research and results and improvements in this platform ongoing. And one more difference is that this time that the rising took almost a year, right? At the beginning, we were about at like 8,000, 6,000-ish. And it took 1 year. We tried many times to hit to over 10,000, and took almost 6 months, right? And the price gradually reach this level, and it's actually very healthy, right? It's not surged within like 1 month, and so overall that it looks more bullish than before at this point, right?
We have a couple more minutes left. So I'm going to jump in on this question. You guys might be able to. I also, in my opinion, I think they say the most dangerous words in investing are this time it's different, right? But I think that it's different money driving the market this time. Last time we were at 14K, every single person I saw on the street who knew nothing about anything was telling me about Bitcoin. Uber drivers, my friend, I'll never forget, right within like a week of the top, my friend told me that his kid's nanny had come to work and said, I just bought a bunch of shares of Ripples. She said shares of Ripples, plural. And I was like, it is the top, I'm done. We're not seeing that this time, right? So it seems like, I don't know if that's an indicator that we have a higher ceiling and more room yet to grow, or if it's more institutional and real money and these family offices and hedge funds that are coming in. But in that regard, it feels different to me than 2017. We have about 2 more minutes if anyone else wants to jump in on that one. Or we can just continue on. Federico, you want to take it away?
Yeah, I think that's about it for today. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, Scott, for being a great host tonight. Thank you, Jack, CryptoJack, and Carl. You've all been great guests. We hope to see you again in the future when we organize this. We organize this a couple of times a month, so according to your availability. Again, thank you all. See you next time, and bye-bye. And don't forget to reach out if your question were picked, and to keep in touch for the competition as well. Bye-bye, guys.
Peace.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.